This is the Fantastic Books Podcast,
the fantasy and sci-fi book review podcast for fantasy fanatics, book nerds, and lovers of lore and stories.
covering some of the most loved fantasy series as well as brand new novels.
With your hosts, Anna
And Sam. Let's see what we're reading this week. Welcome back, Fantastic Books listeners. This is Sam.
and Anna.
Today we have a special guest with us, our friend Jackie.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
So,
Super excited.
I'm stoked. Oh my
But
god.
anyways, Sam, where are we in the book?
So, we're back following Name of the Wind, chapter 42, Bloodless. Kvothe had just been whipped in front of the entire school, and like a badass is walking away, and he's heading over to the Medica to get looked at.
So he goes to see Master Arwell, who's like, wow, this really isn't that bad. Like, you're not bleeding all over my table. Like, this is weird. And essentially, like, well, first of all, my favorite line comes up. It's super important. But the long story short is that we know Kvothe took Nalroot, which, just for the record, I pronounce everything different than you guys, so I apologize in advance. But
I took it from the audiobook.
I know, they sound right.
I would say Nalrout, but like Nalroot.
I don't know.
Whatever.
It's
a drug. So he takes a drug.
He's doing drugs.
Illicit drugs. And he can't feel much. Like, he can feel a little bit, but he knows it's like an anesthetic. And basically, Arwell's like, hey, do you want something to numb the pain? And Kavothe's like, uh-oh. Like, I took something, and I probably shouldn't take another something, so at least he's smart enough to know that. But he's like, no, I'm good. Like, I can handle it. And Arwell's like, what did you take?
Yeah.
He doesn't pick up on it at first, though.
He doesn't, and then he's like, this is my favorite line in the whole book. So Kavothe's like, no, I don't need anything, I can handle it. And Arwell goes, and do you enjoy this sort of thing? Basically calling him a sadist, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I do like what he
I
has to say.
thought he was asking
it.
about self-harm.
Oh, I thought he was talking about, like, sadism. Like, do you
Oh.
sexually enjoy this?
I
Wow.
Oh my
Such
God.
a different interpretation.
Wait, okay,
Uh-oh.
what did you think?
So I always thought it was like, do you enjoy this sort of thing? Like, do you enjoy putting up like the tough bravado? Like, I'm fine, just like rub salt in the wound. I can
well,
handle
what
it.
does this question even
I
mean?
thought it was, like, legit sadism. Like, that's why it got me so bad.
Oh
Like,
my
I
God.
thought it
Oh
was
my
so-
god.
I mean, I literally stopped and was, like, laughing. Like crying. I thought it was the funniest. Like,
Oh my god,
no, I thought he was literally talking about like self-harm and was like concerned because he's a doctor.
no. Now I'm trying to find the exact line. I thought I highlighted it. I feel like the whole earth is shaken.
Arwell was silent for a while,
yeah.
stroking his upper lip with a finger as he watched me through half-lidded eyes. And do you enjoy this sort of thing? He asked dubiously.
Right, because I feel like he's like...
Oh, then Kvothe laughs at his expression, so
Right.
maybe he was like...
I thought it was
that
like
makes
a
more
sex
sense.
thing.
He's definitely... Because he also was like, oh, you're gonna have some scars to show the ladies later. I'm like, he's 15. Why are you being so weird with this boy?
I know, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's very
No, I
weird.
think he was trying to give him like a pep talk. Like,
I think Arwell's just a strange old man.
I know, right?
Shades
He's
and
like
whips
kind of a weird
excited.
dude.
He's very weird.
Yeah, he's super weird.
well, it's
So
like the
I
classic, like quirky old like medicine man.
Yeah, he's
like,
just funny, and like it's fine. And then like after he's asking like, well, he like takes a better look at him and like looks at his eyes and like looks at his hands. And
He's like,
"What
clearly
did you
you're
take?"
under something.
Yeah, that's
And I
what
love what Kvothe has to say. He's like, basically saying how he has made a lot of enemies already at school. He's outnumbered. All eyes
Yeah.
are on him, so he can't afford to look weak.
Yeah.
And so Arwell then says, if I was older, I'd say you were being foolish, but I know how mean like boys and like young men can be.
Yeah.
And
But his line though, like I literally highlighted it because it's such a good line and it's so foreshadowing too. Kvothe is saying, I've learned that the best way to stay safe is to make your enemies think you can't be hurt. And I feel like that plays a lot into like how the legend of Kvothe starts. Because
Yes.
it's all about him like creating legend and like becoming almost untouchable and like the whole like when we see Kvothe or Coat, whatever.
Jacket.
Scarf. But when we meet him, he like he's that personality because his true personality is shrouded in myth and it's not real. And I feel like a lot of the point of the book is about talking about how, like, all of these legends that we think are him are bigger than what the true story is. And every true story that comes out, like, there's a myth kind of that circulates, and then when he dissects that story, it's much less cool.
Not as cool.
More. And I feel like that's how it kind of...
And I read ahead a little bit, but there was one part where he was talking about how he just started rumors about himself with his old bunkmate Basil
just
or Basil.
Yeah.
And he was like, I would just tell him, and then he would, like, spread them around just for fun, because I have, like, no power, no money, no family, so, like, my literal only thing that can save me is my reputation.
Yeah. No, but that's actually a really good observation, because when we hear about all these stories, either, like, in the present day about Kvothe, or even as the plot continues through the first and second book, there is this whole complexity to the story that is less impressive than how it comes down. Like, even in the back of the book, when you're kind of, like, reading about the legend of Kvothe, it's like, he burned down the city of Trayvon that we read about later in this book. And what actually goes down is very different than how it's built up to be.
Right.
Wasn't it supposed to parallel the Dracus, like how Chronicler wrote the book that everyone thought was about a dragon? He was like, oh, it's just a lizard.
Yes,
like, and he, like, took a very scientific and kind of clinical approach to it, and so, like, doing the same thing here and, like, getting to the bottom of what all these legends are.
Yeah.
Makes
and I
them
think that's why he picked
cool, but less cool.
I think that's why he was open to Chronicler, too, because he was like, you'll tell the real truth and you won't make it sound pretty. Like,
He
wants, like, I think he's at a stage in his life where he wants people to stop treating him like a legend and stop feeling like his life was pretty, because it was awful. Like, it was really awful.
Pretty shitty.
But anyways.
So, Arwol's taking a good look at his back, and he's admitted that he took, like, 2 scruples en route.
In this part, and I know we jumped ahead a little bit, but Kvothe is talking about how he, like, stitched his knee up. Is this the first time he admits to anyone at the university he was homeless?
Yeah. Oh, I love this part, too.
And he's, like,
subtle.
pretty proud about his work and very, like, stalwart, I guess. Like, you know, this is the best I could do. I was working with everything I could.
Yeah, he literally tells Arwol, he's like, you know, I was just doing the best I could with the tools I had at the time. This is, like, where the gut was broken, like, in my knee, and I had to, like, re-stitch it halfway through.
Yeah, and then the other part of the truth was, like, he took his shirt off because he only has 2 shirts. He wasn't trying to be brave or, like, whatever.
Right. And I feel like Arwol, like, didn't give him pity and, like, do any, like, he was perfect, and it was the first time that Kvothe was like, oh, I can, like, say this and, like, not get pitied and, like, have.
I feel like he just, like, absorbed the information and was like, okay.
Yeah. He was
I
like,
now know this about
this
you,
way,
but, like, didn't really react in any kind of judgmental way.
But then we meet Mola, who's one of my favorite characters.
I'm glad that there are girls at the university, but I wish there were more. I'm very disappointed in how, like, male-heavy this book is. There's so many guys.
But they are strong female characters.
They are.
It's like Mola, Thela,
Dana.
later down the line, Vachette, like...
Devi.
Yeah, but I think the point is that, like, I think he makes a good, like, I feel like even though this is a fantasy book, he does try to, like, poke fingers into, like, real life things. And, like,
no, he definitely does. Like, the
segregation and, like, things like that.
Women are very not how women are usually written in books.
Right. And it's, like, they're such good characters. And, like, I wouldn't trade them for more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because the quality of what you get is fantastic.
And it's almost like the point of it is that those are the type of women that can make it. And, like, it's unfortunate because so many women get, like, shafted, but, like, it's like good social commentary. Yes, right.
Like, there's plenty of, like, young white rich dudes at this school, and, like, 4 girls.
Right, exactly.
Which sucks. But makes sense.
They're trying.
Yeah, but I mean, even within the book, there's, like, the self-aware of, like, the academia involved with it, where it's like, you know...
No, that's what I mean. That's what I mean he's commenting on.
Yeah.
It's, like, just the way academia, or, like, anything hierarchical works.
Yeah. So, we do get introduced to Mola, and she's just elf? Not Raylar, right? As far as her level? Okay,
she's Raylar.
Okay, my mistake. But, she's
I thought you asked me if she was an elf.
I know.
I think there are no elves in this book.
Her level in the academic hierarchy. But, she basically gives Kvothe, like, a quick, like, once-over as far as, like, she examines his back. She then tells Arwol, like, what she would do in order to stitch him up. And then Arwal basically tells Mola that Kvothe like doesn't want to be anesthetized. He doesn't want anything for the pain, and that being.
She's funny though, because she was like, "Well, I would tell him he's being stupid, and if he gets in my way, then I'll like tie him to the table to finish his job."
Yeah.
Like she is like very business.
Yes, even how she walks in, like Arwell, you can tell he like runs the type shit because he's like, tell her to only bring what she needs. Like,
yes,
exactly. And the second she comes in, he's like, "What have you brought to remedy the situation?" And so she like lists 5 things, and he's like, "Oh, what? You didn't bring this sympathy wax?" And she's like, "No, I didn't." He's like, "Why?" She's like, "Because I don't need it."
I don't know what sympathy wax is.
So, okay, I'm confused because it's like how they make magic, isn't it? Well, not magic.
Is sympathy wax like a specific thing?
I think it is for human binding, which actually is really impressive because...
Is she saying she's so good at stitching she doesn't need like magical binding?
Yes, and I think that's why it was like another like notch in her belt of being
good
like
for
badass is like, I'm so good at doing what I do, I don't need to use sympathy to get the job done.
I didn't know that.
That's
what
like,
I mean, that's what I'm interpreting.
In my brain, it was like Neosporin.
Yeah. Here's a waxy string.
I'm gonna get mad from Neosporin now.
Sponsor us.
Sponsored by Neosporin.
Do you have a cut? You know what's really good at cuts?
No, it happens a lot when you read books. Paper cuts.
As much as I love reading books, what I hate is paper cuts.
Get the Kindle out today. Anyways, I digress.
So, no sympathy wax.
No sympathy wax. But it's very, like you said, it's very methodical and very, like, she don't have time to waste. And
No, not at all.
Like, she's just going to do it, and, like, if you say no, you don't get a second chance. But I think that's, like, super respectable, too.
Yeah. What I did, and granted, is like kind of like tongue-in-cheek and like trying to be like flirtatious, and it's all like young people at school, but she was like, "Oh, you have like very good skin." Like,
that was so weird.
And then like classic Arl was like, "Mola, you're a young professional," and I'm like, clearly she like meant to like in a professional tone. It wasn't she was like grabbing his back.
She is grabbing his back.
That is what's happening.
No,
it's like weird.
yeah,
it's like a weird moment, but it's funny. It's like,
oh yeah, it's just
and
like
she's so embarrassed.
she's like, he'll heal well and move on. Like,
I know. She's like, that's not what I
I'll
meant.
die.
You know, in the Harry Potter movie though, in the 6th one, when they're like Harry and Ron are in their dormitory and they're like talking about the girls they like, and they're like, they have nice skin. Such a weird
so
line.
weird.
It's so weird.
But like it's true. Like when you see somebody's skin who's like perfect, you're like, oh my god, your skin.
Porcelain.
It's a thing.
I wonder what that's
Very
like.
human.
So, Kvothe really got stitched up, and he kind of makes his way out of the Medica.
But he also says, like, Master Alwell says, like, come back in 4 days. If you're clever enough to keep from tearing out your stitches, I'll have you here. So he, like, invites him to be his student.
That's his second invite, though, right?
Yes.
Because Kilvin already invited him.
Kilvin had already invited him.
Yeah, he did, right?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, because then he has
at
to
the
go
hearing.
the next day. That's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
He's probably one of my favorite like characters in the series.
The fish is my favorite place.
It's the coolest.
All the cool stuff goes down, all the great breakthroughs. It's really awesome.
I know. Chapter 43. The Flickering Way.
This, I think
Oh,
is my
no.
favorite chapter. I know, it pisses me off, but it's so pivotal to, like, all of the changes that happen.
I was avoiding this chapter at all
We
costs.
put off reading this chapter for so long because I was like reading out loud and Sam was like, my hands are so red.
The conflict, the crazy.
It's so frustrating. And I feel like this is really the first time he's not able to talk himself out of something.
Yeah, it really
It's so frustrating.
catches up with him.
But it's what catches up because he's like not able to weasel his way out. Not that he's weaseling, but he kind of is like.
Well, that's the whole
like,
thing.
He
His whole persona is
he's
he's
cheating
clever.
a little bit and
Yeah.
like kind of lying a little
Since
bit.
he shows up at the
like,
university, it's like
he's telling lines, and this is the first time his toe gets cut off, and it's like, anyways.
Not that I think he deserves what he gets,
No.
but also
No,
like
It's a grounding moment because it's not just like he's infallible. Nothing bad can happen to him. He's the protagonist. It's like,
yeah, I don't like books like that.
I mean, granted, his whole family was murdered, so
Yeah, he's had a rough go.
he's had a rough go.
And then he was like kind of homeless and like beat up a lot and like
And whipped.
Yeah,
Rubbed teachers the wrong way, got whipped. But not all good stuff happens to him.
Well, no, it was like he showed up and they were like, have some money, here's a bed. You're a star student, you're promoted.
I love you. And I'm glad they were like, actually.
And now we see through your bullshit.
Yeah, you're a piece of crap.
Class dismissed.
I just understand that has taken the Gnar out, but like, why do you decide to immediately go to the archives?
Because
he's impulsive.
He's
Oh my god, that's what makes me so mad about this whole thing. I'm like, if you waited like an hour, you would have been fine.
No, and so like the way it's read is that he's like all high on this Nauru, and like he's like, I'm gonna go to the archives.
I'm unstoppable.
And like he's like walking my way over, and he gets to the desk, and it's Ambrose and Fela. And Fela.
I say Fela in my mind.
I say Fela?
Fela. I like
that sounds
Fela.
better. Hey, Fela.
I just always hear like Fela. Like, hey, Fela.
But it's Ambrose and Fela.
You're a real pretty girl, Fela. Oh, God.
Basically, exactly how you felt listening to that. It's how she feels with Ambrose.
Oh, it's so horrible.
It's so cringy. And he's like all over her and like kind of grabbing the back of her neck and
so
like
threatening.
Leaning in, and like he thinks he's so charming, but she's so uncomfortable. And like immediately he's so pissed. Like Kvothe is so pissed. And literally the line is like, it sparked an old anger in me. And I was like, ooh. Yes. It reminds me of like Tardian days.
Either Tardian days or like his like family, the Dimaru, like maybe getting preyed upon.
Yes, and like so over it. So then he approaches the desk and he's like, we're ending this right now.
And he destroys him beautifully. I love it.
Yeah, and like he sees that Ambrose is like writing a poem, and he trashes.
It's so good.
Hates poetry.
Where he's like, this isn't even like a limping verse. Like, at least a limping verse has a rhythm. Like, this is like terrible.
Oh, absolutely. And Ambrose is, once again, in case you forgot, he's like the rich, like, snotty kid in school, and so he's all, my father. And he is so mad.
You embarrassed me in front of the hot girl!
Absolutely. But he's like, he's doing it in a way that's like giving Fela an escape hatch. Like, saying things so that she can kind of speak and start like edging her way away from him, and like, it's very good gentleman.
Because I think if he went in there and was like, leave her alone, that would have blown up.
Right,
yeah,
absolutely.
way too comic booky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think even though clearly she does not like the position she's in, she doesn't want someone to come in and like take care of it for her.
Yeah.
Because then every time after that when she's with Ambrose, like if they ever are together in this situation again, like it's going to be so crappy.
Absolutely. But so the long story short is he's like trashing this poem, and he's trashing Ambrose, and Ambrose is getting really pissed, and eventually like tells Fela to leave. Fela to leave. And she's like, he thinks that she looks over her shoulder in like a very like thankful way, like she's so glad to get out of there. And he's like, okay, now on to business.
Yeah.
Now I can do my things.
You know what?
My name is in there.
When they write that line is like, Fela looked over, and what I'd like to think was a grateful way, the way it's written.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if that plays into like Kvothe's, because he's kind of arrogant. Like, him thinking, like, oh, she looked over and thought, like, she was grateful for me saving her. Or, like, I wonder if he genuinely was like, I hope she, like, is okay.
Yeah.
I like to think the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he is super cocky with his ability, but also doesn't see, like, and especially later in life, like, when we see him as coach, like, doesn't see the good he puts into the world. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's his weird, like, divisiveness as a character, is, like, he's so cocky and so arrogant all the time. But then when he's actually doing good for other people, it's very...
like selfless?
Yes, and almost like he doesn't know the power that it has. So I think she probably did, and he was like, I don't know, probably not. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like self-deprecating.
Gotcha.
I don't know. That's just the way I think.
No,
I just figured, like being a Dimaru, he was always, like, considered an outsider or whatever, so I feel like in situations he always tries to look for, like, whoever is the weak link there and, like, be in their corner.
Absolutely. 100%.
So this is what, like, boggles my mind, because, like, clearly, like, the null route is, like, finally starting to wear off, so it's like, insert the stupid, like,
yeah, and he even says, like, it feels like a lead brick, like, hits your brain, and, like, he's tired and sluggish and, like, not thinking well, and then he's alone at the desk with Ambrose.
And then he just fully takes advantage of him.
Absolutely, and Ambrose is like, so this is the first moment, essentially, that Kvothe is in the Arcane.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but his name's not in the book yet, right? Isn't that what
isn't in the book yet, and it can take weeks to get in the book. And so he's like, look in the book, like I'm in it, and like Ambrose is like, you're not in it, and I'm not letting you in. Like period. Like so pissed. And so then like Kvothe like lifts his shirt and is like, are these scars enough for you to realize? And then like everyone has
so dramatic.
Yeah, and it's like super dramatic, but it is what got him in. Like he knows it, and like Ambrose was there for the moment that he got in. Like he knows it, and so Ambrose is like, all right, I'll let you in. And he charges him a bunch of fees. He's like, there's a stack fee. It's a talent. And he charges him money. And he's like, here's like a lamp. It's a talent and a half or whatever it was for a lamp. And at this point, Kvothe still only has like a little bit of money.
I think he has one talent left.
I think he really gives it all.
I think he gives him like all his money.
All the money he basically has left for the rest of the semester. And so he was like, I can't afford a lamp. And he's like, oh, candles are just a halfpenny. You can have it. It'll be.
He gives it to him
secret.
For free, I think. Yeah, and he's like, if you don't mention what you saw with Fela, like, I'll let you in.
And like, Kvothe's like, oh, look how nervous he looks. Like,
I know, I really got the better of him. Yeah, oh my god,
it's so damn candle.
And I love the line where he's like, Ambrose wasn't half the bastard I thought he was, thinking like he's receiving a charity from him.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And then, obviously, with what happens.
And so then he's finally in the stacks. And he's like, oh my god. And he's like deep within the stacks and like there's no one really around him. And he's like smelling the air and like feeling so happy. And he lights his candle. And he's just looking around and there's 10,000 on 10,000 books and all those things. And he's so excited. And then he sees like a pair of lamps like kind of walking towards him, and they start walking faster, and they get up to him and immediately blow out his candle, and they're like, what are you doing with an open flame in the stacks? And he's like, oh.
What am I, what? Yeah.
And he's still all dumb right now.
And he had just come across that 4-plate door, so he was just like enraptured.
I totally steamrolled the 4-plate door. Wait, this is so important.
It's super important. Also, he mentions that like the air is super fresh.
Yeah, and he doesn't know like how they could possibly get it to be so like the outdoors, and there are no windows, there's no light.
Isn't it connected to the underground though?
Like the under thing?
The under thing?
Yes. Right.
So he notices it right away.
But then I also have a theory that it has to do with the 4-plate door and whatever is
behind it. Absolutely. Also,
but what do you think is behind the door?
Oh
god.
Alright, yeah, there's so much to dissect.
I have so many thoughts.
Reverse. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm a newbie.
No, that's fine.
No.
But when he goes in and he lights his candle, he's just looking around, and then he like sees the grand 4-plate door, and like they spend like a full page describing this door. Like
it's like set in perfectly, so like you wouldn't feel it, and it's got what word Valeritas described. Does that just mean truth? Is that what we all assume?
Well, okay, that was another thing because it's like valor and truth. Like that's like I don't know, like Latin like would break it down to like valor and truth. And so, like, it reminds me of, like, the Emir and, like, the purpose of the Emir. And, like, it's clearly related to that. But they also describe it as similar to a greystone. Which is literally, like, it comes back so often. It is a literal greystone. It's a solid greystone. It's, like, 8-inch frame. It's all a single piece and seamless. Like, he's running his hand over it, and he can't sink his hand in anywhere, and he's like, what is this?
Isn't the library itself like kind of described like a greystone too? So it's like one within another?
So there's always these illusions with the greystones, and I forgot the original source of the fan theory I read this through, but the common theory is that the waystones can be used as doors of stone to the Fey realm.
Right, but isn't...
I thought they were originally archways.
That
you could go through, but a lot of them have fallen down.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. And so it's like, okay, so one of my theories, one of my like 800 theories about what's behind this stupid door is like into the Fey realm, like a way for all people to access into the Fey realm. But that means everything evil in the Fey realm could come out.
Yes.
And so like, I don't know, like kind of like a Pandora's box moment of like, you can get in and see all these wonders, but
he gets into the Fey realm at a different point, right. So I don't know why this one is so particularly important.
Because not everybody can get into the Fey realm, right? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're going to start getting
and it's preventing the Fey realm from spilling out, and so it's very much, I agree, could be like a Pandora's box situation, because this whole line. So, there were other locked doors at the university, places where dangerous things were kept, where old and forgotten secrets slept, silent hidden. Doors whose opening were forbidden, doors whose thresholds no one crossed, whose keys have been destroyed or lost, or locked away themselves for safety's sake. but they all paled in comparison to the four-plate door. I laid my palm against the cool, smooth surface of the door and pushed, hoping against hope that it might swing open to my touch. But it was solid and unmoving as a greystone. I tried to peer through the holes in the copper plates, but couldn't see anything by the light of a single candle. So this door clearly isn't for opening, it's for sealing things away.
Right.
Yes.
Jumping to the last episode where we had our another fan theory where Lauren was also part of the Amir, who was like cataloging and archiving and storing all the like knowledge in the Arcanum, but keeping things about the Chandrian, the Amir, and like the Fey realm out.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what would their cornerstone secret be? This doorway. So I feel like.
But if there's more than one doorway,
right?
Mm.
But then also, I think it's interesting that there's like copper plates on it and like lots of different metals, which like comes up in another chapter. That like that's a way to keep very powerful
namers in.
Right.
You're right.
I read a theory that the four-plate door is guarding the tomb of EX or Jax.
Yes.
And then a subsequent theory is that Kvothe goes in there, and from his tomb, you know how Kvothe wears 5 rings? Takes the 5th ring, which no one knows what that one is yet, off of his finger and puts it on his own.
Right.
I don't know what that means in terms of the story, but I think it's really neat.
You bring up a good point with the copper, though, because that whole next chapter when they go to the crockery, and all the like gillers and arcanists and students that cracked and get locked away, it's all like copper doors.
Yeah,
and they added copper to Illidan's like stone that he had broken.
Oh yeah, the wall.
And it just seems to be like a theme that all these different like pure metals like have some kind of power. Like even his Thrice Lock Chapstone box.
Yeah, it has copper.
There's all different metals. There's copper and iron, and like they clearly have a power. And like what we know about it is limited, which is so unfortunate.
Yeah.
So frustrated.
So Kvothe quite literally gets caught red-handed at the four-plate door by a couple of the scribs, and they are just awestruck that anyone would be so foolish to bring an open flame into the Arcanum where all these like flammable books are.
Yeah, so he's immediately removed from like, the books area.
Immediately when they start like whisper yelling at him, like he's like in his head, he's like, our little secret, I should have known.
Yeah.
I'm such an idiot to think that Ambrose would ever show me any kindness. Like, I should have known this was a trap.
And it's like, he's not half the bastard I thought he was. He's like a full more.
Twice.
Thank you.
Yep. So then the scribs walk him out and take him to Master Lauren, which is a nightmare.
So scary.
And
I imagine him looking like Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So scary.
Just towering.
Oh, just anger. And this is actually, I lied about before because this is my favorite line and this comes up all the time. Because he's like, Lauren comes into the room and immediately, like, everyone is, like, horrified. And so, Sue goes, before anything else could be said, Lauren stormed into the room. His normally placid expression was fierce and hard. I felt myself sweat cold, and I thought of what Tecum wrote in his Theophany. There are 3 things all wise men fear. The sea in a storm, a night with no moon, and the anger of a gentle man. And I was like, oh, Lord.
Yeah, it's
so scary.
Yeah, and like you're just prepped for this to be a terrible day. But kind of with that line, I feel like that's going to have a lot more importance later. Like, what is... I get, like, a sea in a storm, like, obviously...
No, but the anger of a gentle man.
But in a night with no moon. Like, is that
the Fey realm?
Right? That's
well, because the next book is called Wise Man's Fear.
Right.
And that's kind of where, at the very end of that, that's where Kvothe starts to break and he, like, murders all those people.
Wasn't that a moonless night?
Was it? Don't tell me that.
Oh, shit.
I'll freak out.
Oh, my God. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
so, like, if it's in that order, the sea in the storm, there is, like, a brief mention that he is shipwrecked at one point, but it's, like, not pivotal to the story at all.
No.
Well, like gloss over it very quick. It's like, yeah, it happened, moving on.
Yeah, there's, like, a big jump in time in the next book. And then he goes into the Fey realm, which I would think is a night with no moon, especially when Felurian takes him and they're making that, like, cloak.
Yeah.
And they go to that, like, scary part of it. And then the anger of a gentleman is, like, where Kvothe starts to, like... I mean, I don't know if I would consider him a gentleman, but I wouldn't consider him, like, a violent man. And he starts to get really angry at that.
Or maybe it's a plan where it's, like, a gentleman or, like, a gentleman.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well,
Thoughts?
he's definitely not a gentleman.
He's not a gentleman.
No. Oh, he's pretty barbaric.
Isn't he technically a Lackless?
Stop it.
Throwing my book.
Freaking out. There's so many
The layers. It's
The
nuts.
layers. One thing that's so important to note about this book, which obviously we're like delving very deeply into in this moment, is that like every word is specific and intended. Like,
Yes.
there is no, I have yet to read like a single sentence or like scene that I've been like, toss it. Like,
No.
Conductor.
but like it's just, it all comes back. And even things that you don't think about come back. And that's so...
Well, that's what I was like saying earlier. Is in the first episode of this, I was like, "Oh my god, there's so many things that come up later. I can't really talk about them now because they haven't happened." But like,
it's so
they're all peppered in so particular, and then like just like the amount of plays on words and double words and words that you can interpret in multiple ways. It's so crazy. Could you imagine trying to translate this into a different language and keep the meaning?
Impossible. How Jackie just responded with how Kvothe is feeling right now as Loren is like just so angry.
No, but it really does like it's so.
Because I think
people go so crazy. That's why there are so many fan theories.
There's so many fan
just
theories.
go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, to get back, so like Lauren is
Just livid.
yes. I mean, it doesn't even just like white hot anger, like just the.
I feel like you just want to immediately evaporate from that room, like.
And the poor Scripps are just trembling, and like
I
one of them
feel like they're
hands
just,
the
like,
candle over. He's like,
smushing.
"Show me the candle."
I know.
And they like hand it over, and they're like shaking, and like.
And I'm like, you're not even in trouble.
No, but you feel it because it's in the room.
I know.
It's like when your sister, like when you're growing up and your like sister gets in trouble in the room and you're like, I'm part of this. I can't escape. Like,
Yeah, just Loren going,
to die.
explain. Like,
Ugh.
you just melt. You just melt. You're done.
Dead. And so then it's explaining.
And I love that at his core, Kvothe is a performer. He's a trooper.
I love that he was like, oh, you know, Ambrose at least gave a good performance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so,
What,
exactly.
dude?
Like, Ambrose totally sold it, where he was like, he tried to get in, and I told him to go away, and he snuck in with a candle.
It's actually kind of a bummer that Fela left when she did, because she could have saved this
I know.
whole thing.
I know.
So, traded
know.
one thing for another,
Yeah.
I guess.
And he's still so like effed up from the Nile route that he's like,
He can't even
I
defend
didn't
himself.
do that.
Exactly.
It wasn't me!
And
Like-
you're like,
Okay, dude. Like,
and so Lauren bans him from the archives.
yeah, not even suspended.
Totally.
Just, you're out, kid.
Out.
And
Forever.
everyone is like, ooh.
Yeah, nobody's been banned.
Nobody's ever been banned before.
Yeah.
But I have a theory about that part too, because like how you guys talked about it before too, how he was like, oh, like you shouldn't study the Chandrian, like they'll think you're foolish.
Yeah.
Like, is this just another way of preventing him from getting to the truth? Like, I know obviously this is like a huge offense, but like really he's never done this before, and is he so harsh to Kvothe because he knows that
Because
he
he's
can't
looking
have
for that.
information. He's looking
Oh,
for an
true, because
excuse.
before he was in, what was it, Tomes? Stacks? Which one?
Tomes is the like baby one.
The baby, the baby book.
Baby's dead.
Section.
But now he has, like, free reign to walk around, and, like, how are you going to prevent him from looking for what he wants if he can just
Bam.
do whatever he wants?
That's actually a really good
I
observation.
know. And
I'm
even,
convinced he
like,
is Amir. I know that it's, like,
Oh,
an
absolutely.
iffy... I've been looking, though. It's, like,
How
an
is that
iffy
iffy?
fan theory. People do not...
No.
It's
No
a
faith.
divided...
No faith.
The university is like the cornerstone of knowledge in the land.
And I think that
Isn't it
Amir made
also-
the university?
Yeah,
They
what better way to
definitely
protect
do.
the knowledge than them themselves?
Right, exactly.
Are they on top of the last city that didn't get destroyed?
Yes.
Near Trinium?
So is that where the door goes?
Shut up. Shut up.
What is happening?
I don't
know.
Oh my god.
That's a heavy. Oh,
I don't know. I'm like processing now. I'm freaking
I don't know. There's
There's
too
so
many
much.
things that could be behind the door.
But that's why I love this chapter, because it's such a pivotal, like all of these things start like when you, it's easier to see when you've read it like once before, but like all of these things start getting like very, like the ball starts rolling in a lot of directions. And like him being banned is like how a lot of like bad things start happening too.
It also forces him to, like, do a lot of things he wouldn't normally, because
Yeah,
otherwise
he
he'd
needs
just be, like,
Debbie.
going to classes, and
Right.
it'd be fine.
Yeah.
But, like, that's how he meets Ari.
Yeah.
and Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, he needed a
Yeah.
loan.
Yeah, but he didn't need a loan to get back into the
Yeah,
library.
but they didn't like him anymore, so then they gave him like a tuition that was
that's right.
not unattainable.
Plus, also, he spent all his money on the stacks
Yeah.
fee.
Freaking
My freshman year, someone spent $60 on like pool tickets for the high school pool that didn't exist.
Oh,
it hurts
no.
me. It hurts me.
I know.
But
Walk
anyways.
away.
And so Lauren bans him from the stacks. And, like, he's so stupid and drunk and like messed up that he can't defend himself. And
I think he
tries
thought he
to-
was going to talk his way out of that.
absolutely.
He for sure thought he'd
yeah,
be like the golden boy once more.
because even after he's like, "You're banned," and he's like, "Wait, master, no," and he's like, "So."
He's like, I don't care about your intentions. Like,
yeah, I care nothing for your intentions.
Ugh.
Oh, it's so cringy, and it's like your dad like getting mad at you.
not even just angry, disappointed.
Oh,
But also, like, have you been on the other side and seeing that kid that gets like everything they want
Yes,
all the time
and
finally shut down, and you're like, yes.
oh god! But he also like, oh, I loved it because he was like, all that matters is the reality of your actions. Your hand held the fire. Yours is the blame. That is the lesson all adults must learn. So it's so
Heavy.
like, yikes! It hurts because it's true.
It's
Yeah.
so true.
And so the crazy part is all this that happens, it's only been like the span of like a couple of hours since he's been whipped. So it's like 2 PM.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's not been long.
Literally,
Like emotionally it feels like a lifetime has
I
passed.
know. I'm like, how many weeks has it been?
And it's only been like 2 hours.
It's half a day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, it's so gross.
And then poor Kvothe, he like tail between his legs, like meets up with the homies in the mess hall, and Minet's like, stack fee? Oh yeah, we still like bust kids' chops about that out of like a hay penny or like a shim.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, in back of his mind, it's like, I lost an entire talent. Like,
Yeah, he like.
I think
doesn't say
Minette actually could be a good resource for Kvothe, like in terms of how the university works, just because he's been there so long. But he just dismisses him. He's like,
know.
you're an
That's
old
his
joke.
point.
Bye bye.
yeah, that's where his
also, like-
arrogance plays. Man.
I know, and that's the thing, like, with him, like, he, like, I won't say he, like, plays the victim, because he doesn't tell anybody when he's a victim, but, like, in his own head, he's like, woe is me, like, all these things happen to me, I'm like, you a-hole. Like, you cheated.
But he's
away
also
and
like, I have to go it alone.
Yes.
Right. And it's also like, if you had just chilled the F out and, like, waited a day, and, like, after getting whipped, went home.
Take a little nap
Right,
and
yeah,
come back
sleep
later.
it off, not be an idiot, not be a jerk to Ambrose, even though he totally deserved it, and, like, you did a good thing.
None
Not
of
been
us.
so snarky and just
Yeah.
been like, stop. Like, what do you do?
Like, I
Fella,
feel like
why
you
don't
could have
take it?
intervened without creating
Oh,
an
absolutely.
enemy.
You know,
I
like, hey,
mean-
fella, can you show me, like, where this book is?
Done.
Plot-wise, though,
He has to
Guys.
always be the hero, though.
I know, he does. And he always has to be dramatic and flair, and that's what's biting him. And then he still will have to cheat his way in and, like, do all these things. So it's his own... He's setting himself up for such disaster.
and I think that's kind of... It's,
But
it's
he's
obviously
always just a big
self-inflicted.
character.
Uh-huh.
That's the problem.
But I think that's the whole point. Like, he, in a weird way, needs these huge problems and conflicts for him to overcome. Like, whether he realizes it or not, that's, like, his character flaws. Like, to do it his way, to always overcome that obstacle. And so one thing I really enjoy about the end of this chapter is they're like, you should not start a pissing contest with Ambrose. He's not just some lord's son. Like, his dad is one of the most powerful barons in Ventus.
I'm like, sure, he seems like a joke at the university, but like, the university is a little bubble in a real world, and the real world has real consequences,
Yeah,
and you're
and
just
then-
not taking them seriously. For someone who's lived on the street and had like very dire consequences and like real, actual bad things happen to you, I feel like he's almost just like stepped into like fun play world, the university.
absolutely.
Nothing can hurt me here, and everyone else does not see it that way.
Well, I think that's part of it, but because he was a Deemaru, he was always traveling, so since they were literally the lowest on the totem pole, he never played into the respect of the social hierarchy.
Oh, that's true.
And even though his parents and family taught him, like, how to address lords and ladies and different people with, like, proper respect, in his mind, he was like, well, none of that should matter unless it's about who you are.
Right.
So
Plus, also, he never stuck around long enough to like deal with the consequences of any kind of, I don't know, government or like higher monarchy people.
Exactly.
I don't know what those people are.
Whatever.
So they basically...
Landed folk.
Mene and Sim and Willem are like talking with him, and Manet is basically explaining how anytime Ambrose had a grudge with somebody, like, they were basically taken care of in one way or another.
But can we just note that, once again, so he's talking about how Ambrose is, like, a firstborn heir, and, like, Ventus is, like, one of the richest countries in their world.
Yeah.
And he's, like, Sim is all like, well, actually, you're wrong, and, you know, he's actually 12th in line, or whatever it is. And he's like, you've got the royal family, the Prince Regents, Mayor Alvaron, Duchess Samista, Acleus, Meliu, and Lackless. Once again,
yes, and
just always
the foreshadowing.
Yes, it's always noted that she's like
she's important.
This, and so they're like, yeah, shut up, whatever, Sam, like, know it all. And
which also plays the fact that when it's revealed later that he's like his family's actually pretty well prominent too.
Yeah, and so then they're talking about how like Ambrose's bad side and how he like bought somebody else's debt and then like
sold it to someone else, and it was
like he bought it under somebody else's name.
Yeah,
but like the second this guy was like a penny short, he like destroyed him and it gets him sent to jail and like
some heavy stuff.
Consumption of the lungs. Yeah, it's very bad.
Yeah, like the guy's dying essentially, and so then Kvothe comes back and he's kind of saying in like a loudish voice, like they're in a bar essentially right now, and he's saying like in a loudish voice. He's like, I'm not threatening anybody. Like, I'm just saying, I'm reciting the fourth act of Dionica, where Tarsus says, upon him I will visit famine and a fire, till all around him desolation rings, and all the demons in the outer dark look on amazed and recognize that vengeance is the business of a man. So it's like a threat.
Yeah, shots fired.
Subtle.
It's just a theater boy threat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a little drama.
There is this thing about Sim mentions that there was a girl Tabitha. She made all that noise about how Ambrose had promised to marry her, and then she disappeared.
So like this boy is a hot mess.
Well, did you read the like companion, the little book?
Salogard?
Yeah.
Salogard.
Yes.
Do you think that that's Ari? Because there were a couple times she mentioned like getting married, and then she mentioned something that was like clearly she had some kind of trauma that seemed like a result from rape, because she was very nervous about someone like touching her.
So many theories about like Ori, whatever I say, Ori.
I don't know.
Oreo.
Oreo.
But
hello.
I have like literally. I feel like I read so many and I dove so deep into that rabbit hole that I'm like so confused now.
I am also confused. That's why I brought it up.
I don't know. I've never thought of that though.
Because then I think people also think she's Princess somebody.
Oreo.
Yeah.
Oreo.
Which is like so close that it's almost too close.
It's too. Well, the thing is, her name was never really Ori. That was the name
Kvothe gave her.
That's the name Kvothe gave her. And so somehow Ella didn't recognize that, because he was like, you do have a knack for naming, even though he didn't realize that.
I wonder if you're a princess and you go to school, wouldn't you go under a fake name?
Well, maybe it's like, even if you, like...
I mean, not here, though, because clout matters. And, like, she wasn't crazy before.
Well, not only that, but it's like, she could go under an alias, but when somebody's that famous, like, you recognize people, even if it's like, you know, if you saw George Clooney, like, no, my name's Hank.
Also, like,
they don't have pictures of people.
I picture it as, like, the 1500s. So,
yeah.
Like, that's
like, there's drawings of people, but that's
right, and that's why, like, you need, like, patronage letters, and you need to know who you're talking to, and, like, they have such trouble, like, finding all these people, because, like, they don't really know. And that's why Kvothe can hide, because, like, nobody really actually knows what he looks like, except for, like,
fair.
Legends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're like, he has red hair, but, like, that's not that easy.
And he can laugh it off and just be like, haha, acting.
I know.
You know.
Crazy, I could have red hair.
But
anyways, I don't know who she is, so...
Oh, God, it's so intense.
So frustrating.
But I never thought of that. That's really subtle.
I'm not sure.
It's subtle enough to be important. You know I know. It's that
but, like, every sentence could be subtle enough to be important, so, like, am I just looking too hard into it?
Chapter 44, The Burning Glass.
The fishery!
Yes!
The best place! Okay, I love the fishery. I literally wrote it in my notes and put like a little heart next to it.
It's awesome in there.
Place.
Some of the best things happen there.
So the fishery is where Kilvin works. It's his workshop. So it's the next day after he's been whipped.
Finally, that was like the longest day.
The longest day. And so he goes to the fishery and Kelvin has invited him to be his student, so he's basically going to like learn more about it and like
see what's up.
And it's really called the artificery, but everyone calls it the fishery. And it's like the way they describe it, I love it. Because it's just like
so industrial,
huge, and like metal, and like fire in lots of places,
and just like partially done projects everywhere,
yeah,
like
hanging and like all over the place, and
chaotic.
But then
dangerous.
the ceiling just full of those lamps that Kelvin's always working on. They're so cool.
Yes,
I love the descriptions of like how different all of them are.
Oh, absolutely. And you can tell like these guys are just like the like brawny, like thin metal, like
there's like the nerds and like.
Yes.
And then there's, like, the buff nerds.
Yeah, absolutely. The metal nerds. And so he, like, meets Kelvin at his desk, and he's, like, working on something and, like, bending all this metal. And he's immediately just, like, down to business. Like, he's like, are you okay, Kvothe? And Kvothe's like, yeah, I'm okay. And he's like, good, let's start.
I don't have time for anything else. Yeah. I'm busy bending
really
metal.
About arts and crafts.
But also as another shade of something, he says, soon again you will be sound as stone. So once again, like
so many references to stone.
Yeah, I do like that he weirdly inspects his hands, and he's like, "You have," and it's
I like
again,
that he
like,
likes his like small
fingers.
hands.
It's always a thing.
Everyone's obsessed with his skin lately.
Well, it wasn't his skin.
Let me look at your hands.
But before he caresses his hands, looking at the lights, and he's like, "My lovelies."
Yes, my babies. Yeah.
Like, Kelvin is like so excited because he's like, my lamps, like look at my lamps.
I do like the journey of like trying to create the ever burning lamp, and not even so much like with sympathy, but like crafting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
There's I guess sigildry, which is sort of
so
sympathy.
Cool. I love that whole concept in these books.
Sympathy.
Sigildry. It's like they're basically like writing runes to like create out like sympathetic reactions. It's just. That's
but, like,
awesome.
do the runes do the magic for you?
I think so, because
That's
don't
so
they
cool.
not take it from you? Isn't that the point of it? Is that, like sympathy, like, brings your own energy or whatever energy you channel from?
Yeah.
And doesn't sigildry, like, do its own thing?
It either
I think
like,
so.
extracted from the wearer or the environment around it or, like, from the metal itself
But
or
then, like,
whatever.
it can corrode the metal that it's on because of that, like, like
it's
that.
so cool.
It's so cool. But he's, like, talking about his lamps, and he's like, yeah, I've tried a bunch of things, and, like, here's some promising ones, but, like, nothing really ever works. And so...
I'm very fascinated by the one that's, like, coal and chalk.
I know.
Like, what is going on here?
And it, like, makes, like, an angry red light or something.
Yeah, how did you remember that?
Things.
I don't know, it just stuck in my mind because it was, like, opposites, and then it's such, like, a violent reaction.
I also imagine them looking like just big glass spheres with, like, things happening inside all of them.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Like, you know, like, the nautical, like, decorations, like, the rope, and it's, like, a glass sphere.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine stuff like that.
See, I picture it's like that, like, rope bucket.
Yeah.
But, like, inside, like, you know, there's, like, lightning, like, you touch it, and it, like...
Like a plasma ball.
Ooh.
Like, I picture
yeah.
that inside.
I just imagine them being, like little vacuums, so there's no, like, gravity in them. So just, like, the stuff is just, like, hovering in the middle of each sphere.
Mm.
Oh, it's so interesting. I just thought that was really cool.
I want one.
Medieval light bulbs that are magic.
Yeah. But then he's like, points to this one lamp, and he's like, do you know what this one is, Kvothe? Kvothe's like, no.
I have
he, like, guesses
no
what
clue.
it is. And he's like, you should know what this is. You guessed it in the...
In your interview.
Yeah.
So, like, LOL foreshadow that, like, they're learning that he didn't know anything. He just cheated. Oops.
I think Kelvin doesn't really care, though.
No, he doesn't.
He's just
He
like,
knows he's smart.
whatever.
He's smart enough to cheat. That's the thing. Like, he's the one they love to hate. Or, like,
Yeah.
hate to love. Whatever.
Well, both.
Both.
Because he, like, he's clever. So he's smart enough to, like, cheat his way in. But he is smart. Like,
He can also walk the walk.
Right.
Yeah.
But he also, like, they know he's, like, not all... Like,
He's
these
not
are the
super
only people
following,
that
like,
know.
the exact rules of how you're supposed to do things.
Yes,
Yeah.
Which
absolutely.
I think is why Elodin sees kind of through him and is like, I don't want you as a student
You
yet.
suck.
You have not put in any effort.
Right, you're just trying to, like, strut on over here and, like, get whipped and, like, act like it's like enough.
I've done my time. 3 whips of it.
So then Kelvin caresses his hands.
They have a moment.
And he's like, you got working hands. It's like when people are like, you got birthing hips. And you're like, thanks.
Gross.
Weird, but okay, we're going to move on.
I thought he had, like, tiny hands. Is that not what it is?
No, he calls them like Sealdar hands.
Oh, like callous hands?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
like-
assuming like Sealdar is like his race. Like I think it's like being from
Oh, it is,
It's
yeah.
supposed to be like a complimentary term. He's basically saying you have like
hands like mine.
you have like working man's
Built.
hands, but they're also not like big chunk hands. Like they're actually nimble, so you have craftsman's hands. Like they can be used to create good things, and you can like intricately create something,
Yeah.
and not just have like big meat paws.
Yeah,
Like,
and like Kilden's like, I have big meat paws that I had to learn.
yeah, no, but for real,
Meats.
big meats.
No, but he does, and he's like complimenting him and saying like, you will work here.
Yeah,
Like he's just like, you're gonna work here. Okay, we're done now.
Alrighty.
you've passed the test of the handful.
And I love that he, like, Kvothe is like, yeah, thanks, and he's just like cut off. He's like, come with me.
Yeah, he,
Alright.
he has no time for like ass kissing.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Because there's no way to fake making something. Like, you can cheat off a test or whatever, but if you don't know how to make
Right, you can't
Yeah.
sell it. You can't make it. You know.
things that don't work, like, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. So then it cuts away, and he's back with the boys and Savoy, who I don't like.
I don't care for Savoy, but
He's
I
like
feel
a
like
funny-
he's like a fundamental like every group has a Savoy.
Yeah, but he's like really nice, and I feel like the purpose of having him is that he's like nobility, but,
Yeah.
like, accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's fair.
He would
It
definitely be one of
humanizes
those,
the nobility.
like cameo
Yeah.
roles, though. Like I said, if we were going to cast it, like,
Oh,
he,
yeah.
he could be a famous person,
Yeah.
just, like,
For sure,
having a fun time.
for sure. I picture him as like Grey Worm from Game of Thrones.
I never watched
Uh,
it.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, I feel like I don't believe you from that reaction.
No. Because originally I was thinking of Littlefinger and then Grey Worm from the Unsullied.
Yes, that's
No,
like
of
who I
course.
picture him as. But like,
Well, I think of him as that mime
Like,
Pokemon.
so much like Latin flair. Wait, who do
Yeah.
you think of?
that mime Pokemon.
Oh my God.
Mr. Mime? That's terrifying. Oh
Just
boy.
his, just his clothes look similar to
All like weird clothes. Like,
Oh, like, oh my God, he sent me the other day. That was like balloon.
yeah. The Modigan styles. Like, it's like all wild.
So orange.
Terrifying.
Oh,
I'm leaving you
He's
boys
just-
for the night. I have a date. He's just like all creepy.
I don't know. Doesn't he like have a pink outfit?
He has like bright colors because like the
colours.
I think that's what I-
is more
Silk.
subdued.
Oh no, Mr. Mime. I think Mr. Mime has like a pink and white outfit, and
Yes.
that's what I'm thinking of him wearing.
does he have a pink? Oh, he does. It's like pink color.
It's weird.
This is literally what you're thinking about.
Oh, it hurts.
Hi, Savoy.
Oh, I don't picture him as that, but I can see it.
It's terrifying. Bald.
They
It's
said he had different clothes than everyone else,
Hurts.
and his shoes are weird,
his shoes are. Those are definitely his shoes.
Those are definitely his shoes.
right?
Yeah.
I get
So
it,
just
I get
elf
it.
shoes.
Just weird.
I have no explanation.
That was your explanation.
So Savoy is Mr. Mime.
But so they're like in the bar again, and they're just like shooting the shit.
Aren't they at Onkers?
Yeah.
This is
Yes,
like the
this
fir-
is like their like
I know. What is to become like the home away from home.
right. They're like casual dive bar fun place, and it's like nice enough that like people of nobility and like on fancy dates and stuff can like go there, but like cheap enough that they can afford it, but like not sketchy that they're gonna get stabbed. in the parking
Yeah.
lot, you know. And so they're just like talking, and like Savoy is like all like Modigan as hell, and like all dressed up. And, like,
Modigan as
silks
hell.
and,
He's,
like,
he's all
what
Mr.
are you
Mimed
doing?
out.
He's all Mr. Mime. And they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, I can't stay. I have a date, but like, I'll send you some drinks.
Bye.
I mean, that's
Bye.
chill of him.
I know, super nice.
Very
Yeah, you
nice.
got like the first round.
They kind of take it for granted too, and they're just like, nice of him to do that. Bye.
Yeah.
They're like, you're rich, you
Like,
owe it
get
to
out.
us.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're trying to like tell Kvothe which master to like buddy
Suck
up
up
to.
to, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you have to pick one. And I think he's so interested in picking all of them. Like
Well,
I know
this
he
is
wants
also-
Eladin, but
Yeah,
I
this
think
is the
he.
first time that he's like, well, how about Eladin? And
Yeah.
they're like,
Why would you want that?
he doesn't teach.
There's all these
Like,
good professors, and then there's
And like two of them have already expressed like actual interest in you, and they both have useful skills. Like you could be in the fishery or you could be in the medica. Like why would you scorn that?
Right. And he's like, well, I want to like learn from Eladin. And they're like, he literally doesn't teach. Like, he just exists.
Like, do you have to stand out anymore? Like,
Absolutely.
Why are you this way?
They're saying, like, Eladin's crazy. Like, he's just a weird person. Like, he doesn't do anything. Well, at one point, like, Kvothe is like, he's so young. Like, how he has to be great if he's here and this young. So, like, once again, paralleling himself to being like,
I'm destined for greatness. Yeah. I'm young too. I'm capable.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, he had like this student once and like he went crazy. And like subtle. And so like they kind of are just like, you're an idiot, just like pick something else. And that's like where it drops.
Yeah.
Don't they say that he cracked at one point though? Like that's when they first mentioned that he had like his own mental break too.
Right. And they say like Eladin like went to the like rookery or like the crockery, whatever you want to call it.
I really want to know how he convinced everyone that he was like normal enough to come back and teach after that.
I think he just broke out and they were like, okay.
Yeah.
Guess we can't keep you in. You may as well.
It's like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. Like, all right, that's your exit. You're free.
Yeah.
Just come on back, I guess.
And so then they start like talking about the crockery. And the crockery is like their insane asylum on campus, essentially. And they're like, have you ever been there? He's like, no, I haven't been there. Like,
why would
this
I go
like,
there?
Meant to keep like Arcanists in. Like Arcanists go crazy. And like if you're like headed down that path, like that's scary. Like don't do that.
Like it's not just keeping normal people out, we're keeping like powerful, dangerous people out.
In.
Well, yeah.
Come on, Sam.
Basically, Kvothe's like, okay, I won't. And then, like, internally is like, the whole time I was just thinking about the first thing I was going to say to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't wait to meet him.
Yeah, right. And that's the end of the chapter. That's a short one.
Yeah.
It was. And then we're at chapter 45, Interlude, Some Tavern Tale. Which is even shorter. It's only 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Page and a half, even. So they're back in the Waystone Inn. Kvothe kind of offhand mentions that, like, those were probably the first, like, stories that anyone was saying about me, like, the stories of his first few days at the university, and Chronicler says people are still telling those, but there's all these different versions of them now. So this is why he's, like, looking for the original source for the stories, and what actually happened.
And they mention, like, again, that, like, this is where you got the nickname, like, Kvothe the Bloodless.
Oh, yeah, from the whipping.
Separating the
like,
legends from the facts.
He's like, yeah, I guess. I'm not really sure where it came from.
Maybe. Okay, I call him Bast. Bast?
I say Bost, but
Okay, whatever.
I'll
say Bastian, I'm so sorry. But, like, Bast. He's, like,
however you want.
every time he talks to, like, Reshi, so, like, Master, he's, like, all, like, sheepish. But then, like, anytime, like, he's not around, he's, like, super, like...
I think because he's just so in awe. Like, even though Bost is, like, a grown adult...
He's from the Fae. Like, he's super
like
powerful.
There had to have been an interaction
A grown adult of 150 years.
I'm a grown ancient man. There clearly had to be an interaction where Boss was so, like, either overwhelmed or just, like, inspired by Kvothe that he, like, put him up on a pedestal. There had to be some sort of, like, intense interaction.
Yeah, but also he reminds me of, like, how Kvothe is in, like, the stories he's telling.
Yeah.
Like, not thinking. And, like, one of the first things he says is, like, well, if we're asking questions, like, why didn't you just go looking for Scarpy and, like, learn the rest of his story? And
Like, it seems so obvious from this.
Fast. Like, why? How could I have done that? I was, like, 10. And, like, whatever. He's not 10. He's, like, 14, 15 at this point, maybe 16. And he's, like, they took him away for heresy. And I'm 15 years old. Like, what am I
How am I going to... First off, how am I going to even find him?
And he's like, what am I going to do? Like, paint my face black and, like, hide in the bushes? And I just loved it.
Jailbreak. Like,
this is my favorite. I think this is what you're talking about. He's like, this... But the simplest reason is the least satisfying one, I suppose. The truth is, I wasn't living in a story. So, like, once again, like, re-establishing the fact that, like, he is not a myth. Like, he is a person that made up a bunch of lies about himself. And, like, now he's, like... Which I feel like is where the story is going, is that he got himself, like, in a web of lies, and, like, somebody thought he was more powerful than he was, and he had to go into hiding because of it. Like, that's my theory.
That's a pretty good theory. I think circumstances are allowing him to become more powerful and do great deeds, but they are definitely overblown.
He is powerful, but, like, I think he, like, probably directly to the Chandrian was like, I'm like this all, or like everyone was like, it probably started snowballing before he could get control of it. And he like was like, this guy's gonna kill you. And they're like, okay, we're gonna go kill him.
we'll get him
and
instead.
He's like, ooh, I actually like.
Yeah, he's actually not like a master namer. He doesn't have like the skill set yet, kind of thing.
Yeah, but whatever. That's like kind of getting ahead of things.
Yeah, but I do like that. In a way, the book kind of becomes self-aware.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's
we're not in a story.
he's like in the story.
Life is not a story.
Yeah,
like, that's him. Like once again, like I feel like he's almost angry at the way like his past like lays out, because he's like, this isn't what it was. Like it was much darker and much lamer, and like I am not some like untold power.
Yeah,
like, I am just me, and like an innkeeper now.
Ugh.
You know,
the lie he convinces himself.
That's it. That's the end of that chapter.
And that's the end of the chapter.
Oh god.
I mean, they do reference that, like, if this was a story, then he's supposed to find himself, like, his mentor.
Yeah, they do.
Like, his kooky mentor, so that's why he's, like, fixated on finding Illidan at this point.
No, but, yeah, they do set it up well. It's like, you meet the wizened old guy, and you have to win him over, and he'll teach you the secrets to defeat the bad ones.
He'll tell you the name of the wind, and then you'll immediately ride out and kill all the Chandrian and get your parents back, and it will be wonderful. He's like, LOL, here I am, so clearly these things did not happen.
Did not occur. Chapter 46, The Ever-Changing Wind.
I love that chapter title.
So good.
That's my favorite.
On so many levels.
So funny. But it's just like, I feel like one concept of naming that like Kvothe clearly does not understand is that like nothing is static, and it's kind of like one thing I thought about, and especially when I was listening to your guys' earlier episodes, I kept thinking about it, was that like he heard like Abe, I always say Abe, I'm an idiot. It's Ben.
Everything.
He could be an Abe.
Different way to pronounce it.
Abe. But anyways, when Ben like says the name of the wind, and when like anyone like says a name for anything, like Kvothe can never really quite hear it, and like it's always like a little bit mumbled, and he's like not sure what's being said. And I feel like it's the kind of thing where it's like you guys had said, like not like a word, but like
I don't think it's like a word. And he gets it with music, like in the beginning he's like playing feelings. I'm like, that's it, that's naming, like you're so close.
Yeah, and like I feel
you're
like
just trying to come at it from like a learn it from a book perspective, and it's like not, that's not how it's done. It's just not.
And, like, so like the ever-changing wind, like the ever-changing name of the wind.
Yes.
Because it's
absolutely.
so like not static, and like you constantly
it's subconscious. And
I wonder if even the namers like hear the words coming out of their mouth when they name something, or if it's almost like you just tap in and like words come out of your mouth and you don't know what they are.
Well, because later in this chapter, the stone will get there.
The stone, but also even Froa, but like Fela, they have that class and she knows the name of like Earth and creates the ring.
Stone,
yeah.
God.
He like smacks her the back of the head, so she's just like not actually concentrating on the physical object, but she's like subconsciously just the vibe and like force that it represents.
And then she can't do it again.
Yeah.
But
Fela.
Anyways. so
it's just so funny.
Shayla's a good one. That's probably right.
Probably should have just given her a different name.
Who's a pedophile?
Oh my god.
I love how weird the names are in this book, and then literally in this chapter there's someone named like Jeremy, I think.
Oh wait, I highlighted his name later whenever it comes up. It's like the guard that you're
the guard. He has like a totally like
Timothy. I highlighted it later.
Like why? Everyone else's name is not a name I've ever
you get
heard.
like all these crazy names like Master Exodol, and then it's like, hello, Timothy.
I wonder if that was like one of Patrick Rothfuss's friends.
It's gotta be.
Like, why would you?
First and last name.
Does he really?
Yeah, but I highlighted it for that reason.
All right, we'll get there. We'll get there. Oh my gosh. All right, so he's looking for Illidan and is having a very tough time finding him because his only class is unlikely maths, which is held now and everywhere. It's such a stupid thing to write down.
Stupid. Like, he just wrote it down. It's like when, like, professors have office hours and they, like, don't show up to their own office.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
All right, neat.
And so, like, he's just walking through, like, the courtyard and he, like, happens to see him. And he's like, run.
Oh,
No,
I love
this is your
whole
only chance. You
interaction.
have
Yeah,
to go
he
now.
like basically blows off his class in Medica to go talk with Eladin.
Yeah.
I love kind of how immediately a jerk he is, though, because he's like, oh, Master Eladin, I was hoping to talk to you. And he goes, a sad little hope.
And he's like, you need to aim higher.
Yeah. He's like automatically trashing him.
Try somewhere else. And then he's like, I want to study to him. And he's like, no, too high.
Somewhere in between. Like, what's wrong with you? And he's still walking. He's still just like,
Yeah,
mad
like-
Oh, he does not want to stop.
child.
And it's not even like they've had a chance to even actually talk before, so this is like their little first like.
I think so far
one-on-one
Eladin has
interaction.
waved at him when he was on the horns, and that was
and
like
he
it.
voted him in.
Yeah,
At the
Oh, that's
beginning.
true.
He was like the last vote that like counted. So like he like
To
he made
get
an impression.
well, at least that's what Kvothe thinks. He's
Yeah.
like he likes me, and then it's like does he?
I don't think
I think he was just
So-
glad they got the best of him.
I think it was a 50-50
Yeah,
shot whether or not he put his hand up. Like, Eladin
Right,
doesn't
yeah.
care.
And I think it wasn't because of him. I think he just hates him.
Yeah.
He does.
But whatever.
So improbable maths raises his hand.
And so then he's
I
still
know.
like trying to be like, okay, I really hope like you'll take me as a student, like teach me whatever you think is best. And so Eladin's like, okay, go get me 3 pine cones, but they have to be perfect pine cones. Like they have to be this size and they can't be broken at all. And like, go get me 3 pine cones, hurry. And so Kvothe's running. And he's like, pine cones. And so he's like, I literally picture him like scrabbling through the grass, just like trying so hard to like find something. And so he finds 3 pine cones and he like runs back. And Eladin's gone.
God, I love
It's
it.
like, oh my god, I'm an idiot. Like,
Do it, kid.
what the hell? But then he finds him again. He like looks around and like darts after where he thinks he might have gone, and he like finds him again.
And is he still just like? It's not even like he was trying to like get the slip on Kvothe. He was still like casually just like walking on by, just
He
like
just
whatever.
doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No.
that's enough about that guy. He does
No, you're
not
fine.
care at all about him. And he's like, so what'd you learn? He's like, that I'm an idiot. Like that you
That
don't
you
want to be.
Want to be left alone?
He's like,
He's
yes.
like, yeah, you are smart, huh? There ends my teaching. Goodbye.
But then he like talks about being in a story again because he's like, oh, you know, usually in the stories you have to prove your dedication to the old hermit before he takes you on. So he just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
No, but I think this is actually really, in a creative and clever way, awesomely written because Kvothe is still young and naive. So in his mind, in this point in his journey as a person, he's like, this guy's my ticket to like learning the things I want to learn at the university.
I have to prove myself. That's why he jumps off the roof later.
Yeah.
Well, just like with Ben, like he's reaching for things that aren't like there yet. Like he hasn't made the steps he needs to make, and
Yeah.
he's trying to be more than he is. But then he's like, seriously, why won't you teach me? And I love this part because he starts insulting the Adima Rue.
I say Rue.
I said Adima Rue.
It don't matter.
And it doesn't matter, but I feel like you guys are probably saying it right. So I should.
I literally just copy whatever the audiobook
Tomato,
guy
I
said.
feel like that's got to be right though. Like somebody had to tell him that that was right, unless he's just reading it. And
I think he's just reading it. He's a great reader, but
But he
Anyway.
starts insulting them, and he's like, they're like poor students, and like you would not do what I said. And immediately Kvothe is like
Flash
angry.
trigger.
how
But
dare
it's
you?
like a test, I think. That's
Yeah.
the test that he's like, are you gonna just freak out? And then he's like, I'm sorry that your experience has been awful.
There's
He's
more
like
to be
so
desired,
angry.
yeah.
But then Eldon's like, oh, you're gonna like bend over backwards and like suck up to me now?
Yeah, now you're gonna brown nose too. Like,
Yeah,
oh
like-
my god, I'm so over you. And he's like, why don't you want to teach me? He's like, because you're an idiot.
And no,
Does
does
he
make a
think
good
he's an idiot,
observation.
or does he think that Kvothe is actually really smart and is trying to protect his mind from becoming broken?
I think that too, because then he's
Like
like,
a
fine,
little
I'll
It's a
show
dangerous
you.
business, and that's why he
Yeah.
goes to warn him. But he
Right.
does make a good observation here, and I know it's meant on the surface to be kind of funny. But
Oh,
he was basically saying, like, your eyes are the wrong color. And there's, like, a couple of different meanings
Oh,
to
with
this.
his eye,
His
Because
eye color
changes
changes.
based on his mood, but also I think
Yeah.
what he's saying is you're seeing the world too literally to understand naming.
Right, absolutely.
So, yeah, I just like that there's, like, a double meaning behind that.
I do too. I never noticed that, actually.
I also did not ever keep track of, like, when his eyes were certain colors, and if that...
It has to do with his anger.
But his anger also helps him, like, do naming and
moments,
sympathy, too.
Yeah, and they always, like, when he gets angry and, like, whatever, they, like, compare his eyes to stone a lot, too. So he's, like, going into the heart of stone, if you will, or, like, whatever, like, becoming ultra-powerful. I don't know. There's, like, a lot. But
It's so cool.
I know, it's so cool. But so then he's like, fine, I'm going to show you why. And so he takes him to the crockery, aka the rookery.
A.K.A. Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, so this is the campus asylum, which should already be a red flag. And it's like huge.
It's gigantic. It's like a big palace.
Yeah, and they say it's like the biggest building, like, on the campus. Or like, I think actually the archives is the biggest building, and then this is like the second biggest building, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I know they compare it to, like, a literal palace. Like, there's hundreds and hundreds of rooms, and they say they can keep...
Like thousands.
how many people did they
I
say
thought
they
it
could
was
keep into it?
Oh, okay. He's like, oh, you're right. It's hundreds. Because he goes, Jeremy, again, another
Normal name.
normal name. How many guests do we have today? And he's like, take a wild guess. Like, how many? And he's like, I don't know, 320? Like,
350, and then they could put another 150 people in there easily. So a 500-person asylum
it's huge.
is huge.
He goes, see, we're ready. Like, let's go in.
Does he mean we're ready to go in, or, like, we're ready for how many people's minds are going to break in the pursuit of...
I think he's, like, glad that it's pretty populated that day, because he's like, you're going to get a taste of a lot of things. But that's just, I don't know, that's me.
You're going to get a taste of so many normal names, like Jeremy and Timothy.
Yeah, oh my god, like Jeremy. And then Emmy. Emmy's next. So he's like, Emmy, why is no one outside? And she's like, they're way wild today. Like, they're all wild. And he's like, great. Like, let's go.
She says the moon is getting full. And I know that that's, like, a joke in, like, our world of, like, oh, full moon is, like, people
Like,
go
like,
crazy. But, like...
night with no moon, and, like...
Could
moon is
Lunar
a big thing,
phases.
too.
Yes.
And that isn't Ori, like, supposed to be, like, moon because of, like, moon, too?
Doesn't her name mean, like, moon or something?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
And
like
also,
Ori, like
yes.
Aurora Borealis, that whole thing, like, lunar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a whole
Yes,
thing with
rules the moon.
yeah.
That's a whole...
Which, that's a whole
That's a
cool thing
gigantic
about how,
rabbit hole.
like, that spawned the creation war.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
so cool.
I know, I wish, like, I know, like, that it's purposeful that we don't know that right now, but I wish we knew
I
more
really
about
want
it.
to know
Yeah.
more.
Like, I just feel like it's so important, and, like, everyone knows about it, and, like, we don't. And I know that's intentional, but, like, it just feels
It's just
awful.
such deep ingrained folklore that people don't always feel the need to, like, embellish or bring it up.
Right. It would be like explaining, like, the tavern song.
But, yeah.
Tinker Tanner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To somebody, like, everyone knows it.
But that's the cool thing about this series is, like, it's not just world building. Like, all the stories and events, whether they're the Kvothe or the Chandrian or the Emir or the Fae, are based upon real events. And I think that's a really
Yes.
interesting thing about all of it. It's not
Yes.
just a story. Like, they actually were on events that happened.
Right, but that's also, like, the story of Kvothe.
That
Yeah.
Because it's all real, but it's, like...
It's been, like,
fake.
changed so many times.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's all embellished. And so I feel like all of these important legends that we learn are, like, so important and so real. And I really feel like the key is that the Emir is going to be, like, bigger than what it... Like, I feel like that's the only one that went the opposite way. Like, where they're like, oh, it's just, like, soldiers that kids play with.
Yeah, like, don't worry about
no,
that.
it's going
Right,
to be
but it's
such a
like-
deep, like, underworld web of, like,
Absolutely.
people he knows that were part of it. Like, I'm sure, as we talked about in other episodes, like, Ben was definitely a part of it. Scarpy.
Well, it reminds me of, like, Avatar of, like, the Lotus.
Yeah, it's definitely like White Lotus
Yeah,
Society.
Yes.
absolutely. Like, it's that kind of thing where, like, everyone's, like, subtly, like, a member, but,
Yeah.
like, they don't talk. Like, Fight Club. Like,
You don't talk
You
about
can't
it.
talk about Fight Club.
Like, so, they're walking into the crockery, and, well, okay, before this, like, an important note is that
Yeah.
Kvothe was like, can I ask you a few questions? And
He gets
Eleven
3.
is like, you get 3. And so then he's like, I have to be, like, this is like a genie in the bottle moment. Like, I have to be super careful about, like, the questions I ask.
It's so dumb, though, because he's trying to, like, goad him into answering, so he'll just make these, like, leading comments like, seems like the university goes to an awful lot of expense here.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a comment. I mean, it's not a question, it's a comment, but...
But I love, I love him for this because Elodin's like, you're not going to get me to answer a
I know,
question.
he's like, you're
so
not
just, like, takes
ever
nothing.
gonna trick me.
He's so on point about it, and he's like, I'm not going to answer your question, so you might as well stop talking. Like, just shut up.
Just completely ignores him.
Oh, absolutely. So they go, like, upstairs, and... Oh, wait, no, really important, though. He's like, Kilvin really likes you. Like, why aren't you bothering him? Like, why are you bothering me? And he's like, because you know something that no one else can teach me. And he's like, well, what's that? And he was like, well, I want to learn the name of the wind. Like, I saw somebody call the name of the wind.
I feel like he just played his card, though. Like, that was the only reason he had
Absolutely
to talk to Eladin. And, like, now Eladin's like, well, that's kind of a silly thing to want to learn. Goodbye.
Yeah, he's like, well, you're an idiot. And, like, who said I knew anything about doing that? He's like, well, it's process of elimination. And we go over, it's like, that's stupid.
Yeah. That's improbable math.
Yeah.
He's like, well, then I guess I must know, like, dances, needlework, and horse thieving.
Yeah.
With process of elimination. Like, that's not...
Right.
You're just guessing I know these things, and I might not, but you're wasting your time.
And so then
he's doing this, like, step and slide down the hallways thing. So he's in his socks.
Oh,
and they're looking for a certain door. Is that a thing?
I think he was just goading him into more questions.
Weird, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure it all has meaning. Like, I'm sure, like, all his weird, quirky things he does probably has, like, some, like, Mr. Miyagi meaning. But, like,
he's probably doing, like, Morse code.
Well, I just wonder if, like,
what is he spelling?
He, like, knows it is because that's what he used to do when he was in the asylum, and that's how he knows to, like, get to his own door.
Creature.
Oh, like,
you know what I mean? Like, he was, like,
muscle
3
memory?
steps and 2 slides, or, like,
Could
whatever.
be.
Like, that was just, like, I don't know, that's just, like, a spitball, but...
I was wondering maybe if, like, stepping past certain people's doors would, like, trigger them. And you have to slide past other people's. But Kvothe's just walking, so I don't think it matters. There's just, like, chaos behind him. Everyone's, like, screaming and freaking
That's
out.
a good point, though. I didn't think of it like
Question 2. What do I do with these pine cones?
Yeah, but then he's like, Timothy, come here. And Timothy's, like, a guard there. And he's like, oh, this is Elodin, sorry. Elodin's like, hey, Timothy, like, come with us. And they get to, like, a certain door. And Elodin's, like, looking in. And he's like, how's he been to Timothy? Timothy's like, oh, he's been, like, really quiet. And, like, he's not really sleeping well. And, like, blah, blah, blah. And then Elodin, like, goes to open the door and it's locked. And he's pissed.
Yeah.
And he's like, you locked him in. And, like, I just picture it like another, like, Lauren moment. Like, oh, my God. Like,
I know.
The
like,
silent intensity.
And he's like, no, it wasn't me. Like, it was somebody else. Like, and he's like,
You
I don't
jerk.
care. Unlock it now. This is why I highlighted his name, though. Because he said, like, Alder Wynn is not to be confined. He may come and go as he pleases. Nothing is to be put in his food unless he specifically asks for it. I am holding you responsible for this, Timothy Generoy. And, like, I just feel like
nobody else has last names?
No, but, like, nobody else get called by them. And, like, names have such power in this universe, so I feel like that's, like, a quiet threat. Like, I know your name, and, like, I will use it. And he, by this point, poor Timmy, is, like, trembling. And he's, like, pale and, like, yep, unlock it. And he, like, runs. So I feel like that's, like, a subtle, like, moment where you're like, ooh, he has, like, real power.
Yeah.
Like, there were, like...
He's a force to be reckoned
moments.
with.
And so then they open the door, and little Alder is in there.
Oh.
Which is, like, really fascinating, and I love this whole setup, because after they're investigating him, he's, like, terrified, and he doesn't want to leave. Kvothe, like, puts it together that he's a guilder, so he's an accomplished arcanist. He graduated, and then stayed at the university, continue his education, and help teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was Eldon's way of being like, this guy is fully accomplished. He made his way to his education and still cracked. And without getting off topic, but that's what makes naming so dangerous.
Your brain just breaks.
You can't handle it. I mean, granted, like, spoiler alert later on, but when Kvothe first calls the name of the wind, he's, like, in shock because his subconscious mind is at the forefront for the first time.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure with naming, like, it's such a hard balance of boundaries that a lot of these arcanists and students and people, their mind, like, those walls just crumble. And it's not so much that, like, stress gets them, but it's, like, truly, like, traumatic on the brain to put it through such arduous tasks.
Yeah.
Well, if it's easier for him to call the name of the wind when he's in, like, physical shock, that means that every time you're naming, you have to put your brain in that mental state, which means you're probably putting it through, like, some severe trauma and stress every time you try to name something.
I also think of it as, like, when you're doing, like, more advanced, like, bindings and you have to continue to separate your brain in so many places.
That's
I just
true.
feel like naming is, like, automatically, like, skipping those steps and just, like, breaking. And so, like, putting yourself... It's not so much that, like, you break. It's just, like, to find yourself back again.
To, like,
wow.
unbreak.
Like, hard.
That's
like,
a cool
I
concept.
Ooh.
I do love that, though. The whole, like, idea of, like, breaking your mind into, like, several, like, pieces.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's just,
so
like,
cool.
realizing your whole reality is, like, not false, but, like, it reminds me of, like, Inception, too.
Yeah.
Like, just, like, what is real versus fake, and, like, if you, like, know the name of this,
The
what
name
does
that
it
it's
do to
given,
the
but its
rest?
true name. Yeah.
Right, what does it do to the rest of the things around you? I don't know. I could go down this rabbit hole too. There are too many. But so when they go into the room, they see like Alder Wynn, and he's like skinny, and he's like kind of naked, and like
He's just like wrapped in a blanket.
and he's like hair is crazy, and he's like psycho. He is just like starts like Elodin's like, what happened? And he's like, I was doing fine, like, but all the people and the dogs and the
noise
cobblestones,
and
yeah, and like, and then he just like breaks down, and Elodin's like so gentle with him and was like, why are you on the floor? Like, what's happening? Like, let me help you.
So it's like really sad because this guy clearly was like very accomplished at once and is just kind of like degraded and is just in a very vulnerable position at this point.
Yeah.
So he kind of decides to leave the room with Kvothe and they continue on. And as they pass, like they'll hear like kind of like the generic sounds you'd hear in an insane asylum, like people like freaking out and screaming and wailing and moaning and crying.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, and I do really love this line, Elodin goes and turns a corner and they encounter, again, a door made entirely of copper. And Elodin takes a key from his pocket and unlocks it, and he says, I like to stop in when I'm back in the neighborhood, he said casually as he opened the door. Check my mail, water the plants and such. So he takes Kvothe basically into the room that he was put in when he was like staying there as a patient.
But I think it is like important to note that like that copper door was used to keep a super powerful namer in. So I think that copper door was used to keep somebody alive at one point, like in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like the first thing that Kvothe notices is that like
the air
Alder
is
Wynn's
weird.
was soundproof, and he was like, it's kind of like that when I walked in, but it was like weird. And he also notes once again the walls and ceilings were bare gray stone. So this is like two words instead of just like one word, like greystone. But once again, like we're back to greystone.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But he's like, I thought the air was stale, but then I like took a deep breath and like it was weird.
Is it like pressurized?
Pressure.
Yeah.
Like pressure. Like there was
I can't tell if there's like sigildry in the room
It's gotta be.
or if they're using like alchemy to pump in like air.
It almost
wonder
seems
if
like
this
they're
is the
using like
copper.
sigildry or something to like compress and like make the stone even stronger. Would that cause?
Well, I also thought
Or to
like
cancel
how
bindings for sympathy.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, I thought like how like bast like reacts to like iron.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if this is what namers do to copper.
What are their little like coins made out of? The ones that they wear?
Oh, the gillers?
Are they made of iron?
I thought so.
It might be.
I don't know
They're
enough
silver.
about metals
Are they
to like.
silver?
I don't. There's I like literally the color silver, but
Oh.
like I don't know if they're.
I know.
I
wonder
feel like he said it was iron.
I
Because
wanna say
remember
iron.
He takes it off, and that isn't that what he like.
Well, unless
I
that was a
think so.
gram, which are very
No,
similar.
he's not wearing a gram. Ben's not wearing a gram.
No.
Not Ben. Chronicler with like bast. He's like,
Oh, I think that was just a religious like pennant.
oh.
Kind of like
Oh
the
yeah,
iron
because
wheel
the
for,
priests,
Oh,
the Tekken
yes.
priests also wear iron.
That's right.
so some sort of metal.
I mean, clearly copper has something to do with like keeping
Yeah.
namers in, but
But that's
Like,
what I
is-
thought, 'cause, like,
can
he's-
nobody name copper? Like, do they not have? Does it not have a name that you can control?
I wonder if it's like nobody knows the name yet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But like, because even when, so okay, to kind of get to the point is that like, Kvothe is like feeling weird, and he's like, "What's going on?" And Elodin's like, "Watch this," and so he like takes a big chair and like throws it at the wall, and like Kvothe's like, "You're psycho," and it's like a window, isn't it a window?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, the chair crumbles. Like, literally just, like, crumbles into a ball. And he's like, wow. Like,
that doesn't normally happen.
Why would you do
yeah,
that?
that's different.
And he was like, I used to do that for hours.
How many chairs did they
He
give
looks at
you?
the window frame, and it was copper.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, like, what's going on? He's like, okay, I decided on my second question. He's like, I want to know how you got out.
Yeah.
And so Elodin's like, finally, like, I get to show you. And he, like, touches the wall. And then I, like, didn't highlight what he said, but he's like, oh, like,
I think he
they must have
quotes...
changed it a little bit. Like, that's weird.
Doesn't he quote the story too, like Tarberlin the Great? But he's like, Elodin the Great, like literally the same story that's told in the
he
very
was
first
lost in a high
chapter.
tower,
Oh,
no
yes.
coin, no key, no candle.
Yeah,
and
it's like literally the exact same wording.
And his cell had no door worth mentioning, no window that could be breached. And he made a dismissive gesture. Even the name of the wind was hidden from him by the clever machinations of his captors. So he turned, and he basically told the stone to break.
Oh, that's right. It says, like, he faced the gray wall beside the windows. He said to the stone, break. And then he, like, trails off. And he's like, oh my god, they changed the damn name.
Yeah.
The stone is different.
And then he's like, And he's just, like, still touching the wall, and, like, Kvothe is kind of not paying attention. And he goes, like, Elodin's like, oh, that was, like, almost smart of them. And then he says a word.
Yeah, Sierra Basilian.
That's the only time we ever hear a naming word,
Yes.
though.
And I'm wondering if that's like an anagram or if there's like Latin involved.
How do you spell it?
Cyaerbasalien.
Google thinks I'm trying to look up cyber baseline.
Not quite.
But he's, like, looking at the wall, and then all of a sudden the whole wall just falls. Like, as if it, like, poured away.
Sierra Base.
And they're, like, looking through the hole where the wall used to be, and it's, like, not completely clear, like, there's green. So even, like...
It's like copper webbing.
Right, it's copper, but even that, like, he can't just, like, name it away. Like, he has to take a chair leg and, like knock
Whack
it
it
all
away,
away.
yeah.
So I think, like, they just don't have power over copper for some reason.
Yeah. And so he goes, that wasn't there before, Ellen said apologetically, as they, like, crossed the threshold. So, yeah, they're definitely... Somehow copper plays into, like, a protective barrier when it comes to naming or even sympathy, maybe.
Yeah, and this is when Kavothe's starting to, like, see that, too. He's like, more and more copper. Like, why is there copper everywhere?
Yeah.
Someone basically said that if you kind of fudge the, like, word roots, that it ends up translating somewhat into, like, fortress of basalt, i.e. fortress of, like, stone fortified by copper.
Oh. That's clever.
Which is not... But this is also a Reddit thing, so I don't really know.
I mean, I'm sure, like, that's the point of naming, though, is that it's exactly what that was.
Yeah.
Like,
It's there, but not
just
Just
quite.
fudge it a lot and, like, feel the stone and it'll be
shake
fine.
these people to their core. They're like the idiots. They're like, oh my god, he's
Crazy.
so smart. But then he's just, so they go out onto the balcony, and, like, this is kind of a real moment, though, because Elodin's kind of, like, taking a deep breath and, like...
He's like, I was stuck in this room, yeah.
Isn't stone not that hard to name, though? Because isn't that what Phala learns to name first? And it's, like, supposed to be the easiest thing?
Like, a very, like, big deal.
I thought
She's
it was
a big
supposed
deal,
to be
but I also
not that
think-
hard because stones are kind of, like, a still material.
Oh, yeah, I guess they're, like, not changing.
Yeah, so, like, their names are easier to learn.
It might be.
Ever-changing wind.
It's so difficult to learn.
But also,
But-
the air that was being pumped in and everything was, like, creating inconsistent, like, factors for, like, the person that's, like, a captive in the room.
But isn't this entire building made out of stones? Like, can no one escape their rooms, or do they just not want to?
I don't think it's that they don't want to. I think the room is creating conditions in which they're not in the right mental mind frame to tap into naming.
I don't think we know enough about anything
Yeah.
to, like, even...
I need to know
past the
more.
second book, it's just, like, these are the things I'm like, are we ever gonna know? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just so big.
I feel like I need, like, a word-by-word, like, explanation.
absolutely.
Like
I
a
would
10,000 page book.
I would die to just, like, have him reading the book and, like, pause, be like, so in this moment, I wanted to, like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. That's what you should do after the third book.
Should go on tour and just, like, read a chapter. And then,
Like,
like
a 77-hour
I know.
Yeah.
straight. No breaks. But so then they're out on the balcony. This is a good part too.
Yeah.
This is
They're
so
like
good.
very high up. They're like 20 feet in the air, and like the wind is blowing in their cloaks and like in their hair. And
Very
Kvothe is talking
majestic.
about how like Elodin is like on the edge. And
He looks so
he's, like,
majestic, minus
he looked
his.
rather impressive, actually, if you were willing to ignore the fact that he was only wearing one sock.
Yeah.
Like, he had taken off his sock to, like, wedge it under a door.
Yeah, when they
Because
first
he didn't
walked
want
in.
his door to, like, be trapped
Yeah.
in.
He was like, I know what my third question is. Like, what do I need to do to, like, study under you?
Why do
And
you
I
still
love
want
the build up
this?
for this. It is wonderful. So he was like, he met my eye, calmly appraising me.
He, like, thinks he is in at this point.
Yeah.
He's just, like, ready for Elodin
Oh,
to, like,
the
bow
arrogance.
down and be like, fine, I accept you as my student.
Yeah.
Jump, he said. Jump off this room.
Oh my god, and I can just picture him, like, jump.
And I love all this where
Bye.
Kvothe is like, he has a
Oh, he
great
gets in
respect
his
for my
head.
tenacity. He wants me to prove himself. This is a leap of faith. Like,
He's
Yeah.
so in his head, though, because he's like, you have to prove yourself to, like,
Yeah,
your
he's like, he
hermit
needs
and your
more.
master.
Yeah.
He has to have my dedication, like, fully. I will do it.
This
Well,
part
and then
kills
he also
me.
like compares it to Taborlin the Great.
Yeah, he literally does. He's like,
I know.
he's gonna catch me with the wind and like gently caress me
It'll
down.
be this
and he
magical
literally-
moment.
He literally says he jumps off the ledge and then literally turns around in midair to look at Helen and be like, nah, like, you better catch me.
I feel like he's looking for Ellen to, like, wink and be like, gotcha!
My favorite part is him being like, Elodin's expression was marvelous. Like, I've never seen a man so astonished. But like, he's like thinking he's like so impressed by his like valor.
I know, like,
He's
oh my god.
holy shit. He just jumped out the fucking roof. Like,
What a moron.
He literally describes it as like a brick smashing the ground.
I know, he thinks he's gonna be, like, so, like, like,
well,
to
and
the
then
ground,
he,
and
like,
then...
raise his hand slightly. He's like, he's gonna save me. And he's like, I felt
Crumpled.
weightless. I was floating. And then
This is it, I'm saved.
And then he struck the ground.
He lands so badly, too. He lands
Oh
on his
my
back with his arm behind him.
I landed on my
It's
back
so
with
ungraceful.
my left arm beneath me. My vision went dark as the back of my head struck the ground and all the air is burned from my body. I didn't lose consciousness. I just lay there breathless and unable to move. I remember thinking quite earnestly that I was dead and that I was blind.
So dramatic.
And then he like,
And then just, like, opens his eyes and Elodin's there, like...
and he's like,
That was so stupid.
Crumpled.
and he like can't breathe. And he like finally is able to like take a shallow breath, and he's like,
Literally,
such a good.
he's like, all I can to breathe. I believe the club. That I
Yeah,
made.
and he's just like looking, like trying to breathe, and Elodin's
I
like,
think he literally
"Congratulations."
expects, like, open his eyes, Elodin be there, like, literally, like, reach down, shake his hand, and be like,
No.
you're in the club, kid.
No, and he's like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Ever.
It is.
And that was the whole point. Is like anyone that reckless, that stupid, should not be
Should not be naming.
Absolutely. And
Like,
then it's like kind of.
I think a lot of the whole point of it, too, was, like, Kvothe was like, I just have to show my dedication, I have to do whatever he wants, and that's usually not how he operates. He's very
Yes.
much like, I will do my own thing, I will do what I think is best. And Elodin obviously didn't approve of that.
Oh, absolutely.
But then also didn't approve of his, like, brown-nosed, like, straight-A student approach either, and, like, wanted him to just be smart and actively think for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. But I love the next line is like probably my favorite, and like it's like a cutscene, and then he goes, and that is when I decided to pursue the noble art of artificing. It just kills me. And then he's like, well, that was stupid. I got refused by Elodin.
And I got 3 broken ribs,
Yeah.
a concussion, and a dislocated shoulder literally the day after being whipped, too.
Oh yeah, I completely. Man,
It's literally the next day.
Yeah, he's an idiot. I feel like it's like he's such a moron. And like Elodin is the only one who like really
Sees through his
it.
bullshit? Yeah.
And he's like,
Lauren, too.
oh yeah, but like I feel like unlike Elodin, like Lauren's just like goodbye. Like
Yeah, I don't really
I'm
care.
not even like I'm ice and you are nothing.
And you're nothing.
I'm ice.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
literally the greatest. I am ice and you are nothing. Good day.
It's true.
No, it is.
Switch it up. That was so good. That is such a funny part. I forgot about how funny that was.
I just love how, like, the arrogance. Just like,
I know.
it's like so nice.
Bye.
I'm part of the club.
And I just love that he's like, I was floating. Like,
Yeah.
I was floating. Like, no.
And then I wasn't.
Yep.
But that's like another really good like fourth wall moment where it's always like the build up, the mystery, the awe, the magic behind it, proving yourself, and then it's literally like, nope, real life.
No, you
real
literally
rules.
like just fell and broke your ribs.
You jumped 20 feet and fell on your
I broke my back. What does that mean? Spinal.
Oh my god. That's so funny. I kind of feel like that's a good place to stop.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
let's stop it there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
What a good high.
Wow, what a podcast.
Wow.
I was so nervous at the beginning, and I felt like I was talking a lot, and I was like, oh, I gotta shut up.
No, we're really glad you had the content for this.
I took so
I'm
many notes.
very impressed you took notes because I do not take any
can't
notes.
Remember. I really can't. Like, I had to read them the whole time. I skipped the whole foreplay door. I skipped the whole
That's
thing.
okay.
And I even wrote, like, a big thing. I described the whole thing.
Oh,
And I skipped
Oh.
it still. I'm glad I came. This was fun.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. In your own-
Oh, thanks for having me on your podcast.
in your own podcast.
I'm welcome.
I don't know what that was. All right. Originally, we were going to do chapters 42 through 49. We are ending now on chapter 46? 7. In the meantime, you can find us on Instagram at WDIC. No, that is my other podcast.
Traitor.
You have a part-time job, and like, you have to say the new number, and you see the old number, and you're like, sorry, that's Target's.
That's not where I work anymore. At fantasticbookspod.com or on Instagram at fantasticbookspod.
And
Bye,
until
guys.
next time,
Bye!
happy reading.
This podcast was recorded by Anna Opushinsky and Sam Furman, edited by Anna Opushinsky, produced by Anna Opushinsky and Sam Furman, with webpage and artwork designed by Anna Opushinsky. Thanks, listeners. If you're looking for more, check us out at fantasticbookspod.com, where we have book reviews, reading list suggestions, merch,